Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Speak English Fluently podcast. We're so excited to have you here. As always, we're here to help you improve your English skills while diving into some really interesting topics. I'm Emily, and sitting right across from me, as usual, is the one and only Alex.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. We're thrilled to have you here, and trust me, today's topic is one that will make you think and reflect deeply. But first, Emily, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Alex. Thanks for asking. The weather's been perfect lately. And I had this amazing cup of coffee this morning that just put me in the best mood. How about you? How's everything on your end?
I'm doing well too, Emily. I finally finished that book I've been reading for weeks, and it felt so satisfying to close that final chapter. It was one of those stories that sticks with you.
Oh, I love that feeling. Speaking of things that stick with you, Alex, let's dive into today's topic. Why do we get stuck in the past? It's such a relatable issue, don't you think?
Absolutely, Emily. I think everyone at some point has found themselves replaying moments from their past, whether it's a mistake they made, an opportunity they missed, or even a moment of happiness they wish they could relive. It's like our brains have this natural tendency to cling to what's familiar, even if it's not always helpful. What's your take on it?
That's such a great point, Alex. I think a lot of it has to do with how our minds process emotions. When something impacts us deeply, whether it's joy or pain, it leaves a sort of emotional footprint. Our brain keeps going back to it, almost like it's trying to make sense of it or find closure. But the tricky part is, the more we revisit those memories, the more power they seem to hold over us.
You're absolutely right, Emily. It's almost like a loop. We think about the past to understand it, but sometimes we end up getting stuck in a cycle of overthinking instead of moving forward. And let's not forget how nostalgia can play a role too. Sometimes the past feels safer or better than the uncertainties of the present, so we end up romanticizing it.
That's so true, Alex. And while nostalgia can be comforting, it can also trap us if we're not careful. For instance, if we keep comparing our present life to an idealized version of the past, it can make us feel like we're not living up to what we once had. It's like carrying around a measuring stick that's impossible to match.
Exactly, Emily. And I think fear also plays a big role here. Fear of change, fear of failure, or even fear of forgetting what mattered to us. It's as if we hold on to the past because letting go feels like losing a part of ourselves. Have you ever felt that way?
Oh, definitely, Alex. There have been moments when I've held on to certain memories, not because they were particularly happy, but because they felt like a part of my identity. It's like I was afraid that letting go would mean losing a piece of who I was, but over time I've learned that we're constantly evolving and clinging to the past only holds us back.
That's such a valuable lesson, Emily. And it reminds me of the saying, you can't start the next chapter of your life if you keep rereading the last one. It's easier said than done, of course, but I think it starts with acknowledging that the past is a part of our story, not the whole book.
I love that analogy, Alex, and I think it's also about learning to be kind to ourselves. We often get stuck in the past because we're hard on ourselves for what we did or didn't do. But if we approach our past with compassion and see it as a learning experience, it becomes easier to move forward.
That's such a powerful insight, Emily. And I think it's a perfect place to pause and ask our listeners, what's one memory or moment you find yourself revisiting? Why do you think it holds such a grip on you? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, let's keep this conversation going. There's so much to unpack, and we're just getting started. But for now, Alex, let's dig a little deeper. Why do you think some people find it harder than others to let go of the past?
Great question, Emily. I think it often depends on how we process emotions and how much support we have around us. Some people naturally reflect more deeply, which can lead to overthinking, while others might lack the tools or environment to deal with their feelings in a healthy way. It's like carrying a heavy bag. Without the right tools to unpack it, it just gets heavier.
That's such a great way to put it, Alex. And sometimes we don't even realize we're carrying that heavy bag until it starts affecting other parts of our life, our relationships, our work, even our health. That's why it's so important to recognize when we're stuck and take steps to move forward.
Absolutely, Emily. Recognizing that we're stuck is the first step. And once we do, it's all about finding the right tools to help us move forward. Whether it's therapy, journaling, or just having honest conversations with friends, there's always a way out. It's like taking that heavy bag and slowly unpacking it, piece by piece.
Exactly, Alex. And I think the process of letting go is really about finding balance. It's about honoring the lessons from the past without letting them dictate who we are or what we can become. After all, we can't change what happened, but we can change how we react to it moving forward.
That's such a powerful thought, Emily. The idea that we have the power to choose how we move forward is so empowering. It makes me think about how important it is to focus on the present moment and take small steps toward building a future that's aligned with who we want to be.
Yes, and that's a great point. Focusing on the present is so important. When we're too busy looking back, we miss out on the opportunities that are right in front of us. It's like driving a car. If you're always looking in the rearview mirror, you're bound to crash into something.
I love that analogy. The rearview mirror is helpful for looking at where you've been, but it's the windshield that shows you where you're going. It's all about shifting your focus forward, even when the past wants to pull you back.
Definitely, Alex. And just like driving, it's okay to take things slowly. Sometimes it's about moving forward at your own pace, one step at a time, and not rushing the process. We don't need to have everything figured out in an instant.
Exactly. There's no rush, and it's okay to take breaks, reflect, and give ourselves permission to not have everything figured out. Growth is a journey, not a race.
And it's one that we should embrace, with all its twists and turns. The beauty of life lies in the unfolding of the story. So while the past may have its place, it's the future that's waiting for us to shape it.
I couldn't have said it better, Emily. The future is ours to create, and it all starts with letting go of what's holding us back. Something that just crossed my mind is how sometimes people feel like they have to carry the weight of their past. It's like they don't feel they're allowed to let it go, like it defines them. What do you think?
That's such a good point, Alex. I think a lot of people feel this way because their past is often tied to their identity. We all build this sense of self based on what we've experienced, but the danger is when we start to let our past completely define who we are in the present and who we can be in the future. I've certainly been there myself. How about you?
Oh, definitely. There are moments when I found myself clinging to the past because it felt familiar or because I thought it was a part of who I was supposed to be. And like you said, Emily, that's where the danger lies, when we allow it to hold us back from who we can become. It's almost like we're wearing a pair of old shoes that no longer fit, but we keep wearing them because they feel comfortable.
I love that analogy. Old shoes that no longer fit. It's true, though. We often stay in situations that don't serve us anymore just because they feel familiar. But the good news is that we have the power to step out of those old shoes and try something new. It's not always easy, but it's possible. What do you think is the hardest part about letting go of the past?
I think the hardest part is definitely the fear of what comes next. There's this uncertainty that comes with moving forward. The past, no matter how tough it was, is known territory. The future, though, can feel like a vast unknown. I think we fear losing control or facing things that are even harder than what we've already dealt with. But as we've been talking about, it's about shifting that fear into motivation.
Exactly, Alex. And it's so important to remind ourselves that the future isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. Every day is an opportunity to create new experiences, and the more we focus on the present moment, the more we can make room for growth. I know it's not always easy, but it's about starting with small steps. Do you have any strategies that help you when you're feeling stuck in the past?
I do, actually. One thing I've found helpful is mindfulness. Taking a moment to breathe, ground myself, and become aware of the present can really help shift my focus away from the past. It's like I remind myself that I'm here, right now, and I have the power to make today count. And also, I find that journaling helps me reflect without getting too lost in the past. It's a way of processing things, but in a healthy and forward focused way.
I love that. Journaling has been a huge help for me, too. It's like you're giving your thoughts and emotions a safe place to go so they don't keep swirling around in your mind. And mindfulness, such an amazing tool. It's like a mental reset. It reminds you that you're in control even when it feels like your past is controlling you.
Exactly, Emily. And another thing I've been thinking about is how we often get stuck in the past because we haven't fully processed what happened. Whether it's a missed opportunity or a difficult moment, sometimes we hold on to it because we haven't given ourselves the time and space to fully feel and understand it. Have you ever experienced that?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a tendency to just push through tough moments, thinking that time will heal everything. But often, what's needed is some real emotional processing. We can't just shove things into the back of our minds and expect them to go away. It's like trying to stuff too many clothes into a suitcase. It's eventually going to burst open.
Haha, I love that metaphor. Yes, it's like the suitcase analogy. You need to unpack it properly. And sometimes it's okay to take the time to really sit with our feelings, to process them. It might be uncomfortable at first, but it's the only way to make space for new experiences.
Exactly, Alex. Sitting with our feelings can be tough, but it's so necessary for growth. We can't move forward if we're still carrying emotional baggage that we haven't unpacked. And sometimes we don't even realize we're carrying that weight until it starts affecting other parts of our lives, like our relationships or work. Have you ever found that, Alex? When you didn't realize you were holding on to something, but it was affecting you in ways you hadn't expected?
Oh, definitely, Emily. There have been times when I realized that I was holding on to old emotions, and it was affecting my ability to be present with others or do my work effectively. It's like you're walking around with blinders on, not fully aware of how your past is influencing your present. It can be a wake up call when you realize how much of your energy is being spent on things that are long gone.
That's such a powerful point. It's like we're draining our energy without even realizing it. And once we become aware of it, that's when the real change starts to happen. It's not easy, but being aware of the impact the past has on us can help us start to break free from it. Have you noticed any changes in your mindset as you've worked through letting go of the past?
I have actually. It's like a light bulb moment when you realize that the past doesn't have to dictate your future. I've become more focused on the present and future, and I've learned to appreciate the lessons the past has taught me without letting it control me. It's a process, but with time, I feel more empowered to create the future I want instead of being stuck in old patterns. And it's also about forgiving myself for things I couldn't change.
I think self forgiveness is such an important part of all this. We're often so hard on ourselves for things that happened in the past, but at the end of the day, we're only human. Forgiving ourselves allows us to let go of guilt and regret and make space for more positive things to come into our lives. It's not about forgetting, it's about healing and moving forward with a sense of peace.
I couldn't agree more, Emily. Self forgiveness is key. And I think it's also about embracing the idea that we're always growing. The person we were in the past doesn't have to be the person we are now. We can evolve, and that's a beautiful thing. It's about accepting that change is part of life, and instead of resisting it, we can choose to welcome it.
Absolutely. It's all about embracing the journey with all its ups and downs. And when we look at it that way, letting go of the past doesn't seem so daunting anymore. It's not about erasing it, It's about integrating it into the story of who we are without letting it control the next chapter.
That's such a beautiful way to put it, Emily. Integrating the past rather than letting it define us. And I think that's where the real freedom lies. When we realize that the past doesn't have to hold us hostage, we can choose to move forward with strength and clarity.
Exactly, Alex. And for anyone out there who's struggling with letting go of the past, remember that it's a process. It's okay to take your time, to reflect, and to heal at your own pace. But most importantly, don't let the past steal your present or your future.
Well said, Emily. And if anyone listening needs some extra support, don't hesitate to reach out. Whether it's through a friend, a therapist, or journaling, you don't have to go through it alone.
So true. And before we wrap up, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. Have you ever struggled with letting go of the past? What helped you move forward? Share your thoughts in the comments. We're all in this journey together.
Yes, we'd love to hear your stories. And don't forget, you can download the PDF in the description with all the key points from today's conversation. It's packed with insights and tips for letting go of the past and embracing the future.
Thanks again for tuning in to the Speak English Fluently podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be back soon with more conversations to help you on your English learning journey. Take care, everyone.
See you next time, and remember, your future is waiting for you.